The Avatar franchise in recent years has been plagued with a lot of issues, and namely, one of those issues was the scrapping of multiple different projects that were put in to be worked on and will now never see the light of day. What if I told you the details around one of them just got revealed to the public, and it offers a very fascinating conversation on the possibility of what we could have gotten? One of these now scrapped projects was going to be a Firelord Zuko movie, and thanks to our good friend Caleb Williams at Night Edge Media, who covers all things Avatar, we now have a good idea of what that would have looked like. I'm going to go in detail on the movie's plot, along with theorizing on what the movie could have done with that plot here in this video. But first, drop a like on the video if you can. I would really appreciate that. It'll help put it into the algorithm, and I want to get as many Avatar fans in here as possible to talk about this fun speculative news piece. And just so it is clear, as we begin, this movie is never going to happen. It's been scrapped for a while now, and everything you are about to read is a matter of only what we could have gotten had Avatar Studios moved forward on the project. It was originally going to be a part of this slate you see here in this image, where we would have gotten a Kyoshi movie, the Zuko movie, and a movie for Korra. Crazy to think how different the timeline of events could have gone had we gotten this. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's now break down Caleb's article. We at Night Edge Media have exclusively learned that the rumored Firelord Zuko film was actually the second one in development and furthest along. Apparently, Steven Yeun specifically signed on to voice Zuko more for this film than the Avatar Aang film, given his limited lines. In obvious news, the rest of the new voice cast from the Aang movie would have appeared in this film in some capacity. The production was in the voiceover stage and already had some previs done. However, everything was scrapped in favor of the Avatar Aang movie that did just come out. The main plot of the film focused on the mysterious murder of the dragons, Ran and Shaw, from Book 3 of the original series. This means Zuko would have the last living dragon with the egg he finds in Book 3. There is also an assassination attempt on Uncle Iroh, all to draw out Firelord Zuko as the next possible target by this mysterious assassin. This film was also going to delve deeper into his relationship with Azula after the 100-Year War. A new voice actress was already signed on to voice Azula after the great Grey DeLisle voiced her in the original series. It sounds like it drew inspiration from the comics The Search and Smoke in Shadow, since those comics were about Azula's time in prison and eventual escape. However, it was not going to be a direct adaptation of either comic. And so, the first thing that stuck out to me when reading this information is everything to do with the dragon stuff. And I'm sure many of you reading this part of the article probably got confused for just a second, because you were probably thinking, wait, what dragon egg is he talking about? I don't remember there being a dragon egg in the original series. And this is a fair question to ask, because it outlines one of the original cartoon's biggest Mandela effects, where there are people, including me for just a hot second when I read this article, that completely forgot that there was in fact a dragon egg that we saw in the episode where Zuko and Aang go to meet the firebending masters along with Ran and Shaw, who are the last two surviving dragons in the world. At one point, there is an egg that appears for them in a room, and Zuko even said that it felt alive to him when he picked it up, outlining the fact that it is a dragon egg. The firebending masters placed it there on purpose to set up a trap for anyone who would come to steal it, and those two were caught in it, likely to be stuck there forever until they came along and freed them, and helped them to get their firebending. That stuff is neither here nor there for this video. The point is that this part of the Zuko movie's plot would have been possible to adapt because of this. And just for the fun of it, to ask the question, did any of you have this as one of your Mandela effects for the original cartoon, where you did just completely forget that happened? Let me know in the comments. So that stuff to me is the most interesting part. So now let's talk about why I personally like this plot as a whole when we factor that dragon stuff in. And I'm going to do that by using another popular IP that also deals with dragons. I'm sure many of you watching this video have already watched many of the different Game of Thrones shows and read the books. In that universe, dragons are a huge part of the lore, as well as to one of the different factions in the world. Akin to the Fire Nation in Avatar, it's not all that different. I'd say the only major difference is that we haven't seen really anyone ever be killed by dragons in Avatar. but I'm sure that probably did happen at one point. A dragon offers a sense of scale in the power of the different houses in Game of Thrones, and for the Fire Nation in Avatar, specifically for the Firelord, he gets to own that right of having one. The idea of both Rand and Shaw being murdered along with an assassination attempt on Iroh gives off the vibe of what you might see in Game of Thrones. It would be a politically charged time period after the 100-Year War ended, where a power struggle game is being played to see who the right fit is for the throne, and to be able to lead the nation is basically what this movie would have been. It certainly would not have been as hardcore as Game of Thrones is, of course not, but it is definitely along the same lines. Even bringing Azula into this, I think that can also relate to Game of Thrones in the way that Game of Thrones as a universe is heavily known for family struggles, and people in your own family just wanting to one-up on you to gain the throne or offer legitimacy to their name and keep it alive for the next generations. Iroh, Zuko, and Azula's name are all plagued by what Ozai did in his time to continue the 100-Year War that was started by his grandfather. That family is cursed with all of that in mind, and so if you've never read the comics that Caleb makes as a note about in his article, it does delve heavily into that stuff. I've read them, so I know what he's talking about, and I definitely recommend you all do the same if you want to be given an idea of what that could have looked like. To even know that Team Avatar would have been a part of that makes it even more interesting, because how would they feel about that kind of stuff, knowing it affected their nations during the war? They are obviously going to be on Zuko's side no matter what, but you never truly know if they are always going to be on the same side about everything. So again, on paper, I really like this plot with what little we are given here to theorize on. A part of me really wishes that we did get that movie. It would have been a great prequel style of story to tell in the light of getting something before the new Avatar Aang movie. And I have to assume that this movie would have taken place at least a few years after the original cartoon, since Azula and Iroh are still around. Regardless, I'm going to be really curious to know how you all feel about this and read about your theories in the comments and just to nerd out about the lore possibilities. And again, go read those comics. I've made videos on all of them, and you should also go check that out on my channel. And with that being said, I'm going to end the video there. What do you all think of this story from Caleb Williams? I'm going to link his article in the description, and I recommend you go check out his outlet and give him a follow on Twitter. If you did enjoy the video and you want to see more, be sure to give it a like, and if you are new to this channel, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Thank you all for stopping by Uncle Iroh's Tea Shop. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for more Avatar.